Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies again with another video. This video is going to be more towards, directors of IT, CTOs, business owners, stuff like that. Um, the main point of this video is if you currently have ICE in your environment, you need to have a co-managed service partner with you, or why you need to partner with a co-managed service. Now, what's the point of this? So, we're going to talk about co-manage. Now, the purpose of co-manage is to make sure you are okay if the worst of the worst happens, right? Worst case scenarios. What are some of the worst case scenarios? Number one, you need support, right? Need support, and you don't have the staff on file, right? So without staff, right? So your internal team does not have the recommended knowledge to support the technology that you have. And that's fine. Not everybody's going to know everything. If you got somebody on your team that knew everything, they would be a unicorn. And as we all know, unicorns aren't real, right? Your team is going to have some strengths and they're going to have some weaknesses. So let them focus on their strengths. So let your team focus on the strengths. I know I didn't spell that right. And someone like us, the co-managed team, can focus on where you're weak, right? Your weaknesses. Now, what does that mean? That means we are not trying to do the strengths, right? This should let your internal team, have a sigh of relief because when they hear managed services, they hear, oh, you're trying to take my job. Well, co-managed services are not trying to do that. Again, if you're strong in this area, say you're a strong, network people, you guys are, networking and y'all got that down pat. Well, but you're weak on ICE. Well, guess what we're going to do? We're going to let you be good at network services and routing and all that. And then we're going to be strong at ICE, right? So it's a symbiotic relationship. We're not trying to do what you're doing and you're not trying to do what we're doing. No one is fighting each other, right? So we're kind of lockstep together, right? So that's worst case scenario number one. Worst case scenario number two, internal team member leaves. It happens, especially when they learn a new skill. If they learn a new skill, the average person stays at a company nowadays 2 to 2.5 years. So what happens, especially if this is a black box, right? Black box team member. And what's a black box team member? That means they're the only one. This is a siloed team member with the knowledge. They're the only one with the knowledge. We had one ICE person and he's the only person, or she's the only person that knew it. We had one firewall person and they're the only person that knew it. We had, one network person and they're the only person that knew it. Right? So if you got that happening and they leave, you are in a mad dash scramble to try to find somebody. And the worst part about it is if they leave, say they don't give you 2 weeks. Well, now that new person that comes in has to figure it out solo, right? What does that do? When they try to figure it out solo, that puts massive stress on that person and they will end up leaving. Now, the messed up part about this for you as a IT director, IT manager, small business owner, is this costs money. Every time you have to bring in a new person that's training, that's getting them in the system, that's doing all this stuff. And every time you got that turnover, which is that's going to happen. People leaving it's not an if, it's a when. It's going to happen. Just think about this. Every time, if you're a small business owner, IT director, CTO, all that stuff, people are trying to poach your top talent every day, right? And everybody has a number on their head that you don't know. You don't know about. Everybody has a price number on their head that you don't know about. And the minute that number gets hit, they're gone. So don't think, you know, Larry that's sitting in, who's been here for 10 years and you think never is going to leave. Don't think they're not going to leave, because I've been in situations where, the ICE guy, the person that was in charge of ICE, went out there and they just one day said, I'm done with this. It was out and left the company stranded. So don't fall victim to this. So where does the co-managed IT come in for this? So for this issue, co-managed IT or co-managed services, because it could be firewall, it could be ICE, provides continuity. All right, no matter what. Since we are, and this kind of goes in with point number one, since we are at your weakness, we are basically becoming the strength for the things that you're weak in. We also provide continuity for if someone leaves. And I'll use Larry for example. If Larry was the solo ICE guy, right? Now, Larry might only know so much about ICE. And then when he needs help, he reaches out to the co-managed IT service to do advisory services, maybe cab services to say, hey, I want to make this change. Does this make sense? I want to do this. What kind of impact would this have? This is why you need co-managed IT services, right? Because the people you got on staff, you're going to get assurance, meaning you're going to get knowledge that you don't have on staff to be able to see around the corner before your engineer does, right? And then they do something called a major outage because, oh, I didn't know they were going to do that, or I didn't know this configuration was going to do that. Well, if they could lean on somebody in co-managed IT and not have to go through a bunch of Cisco docs and all this stuff and guesswork about, maybe if I do this, maybe this will do it right, or maybe it won't, right? You can't do that in a large organization. Working off of maybes and hope could cause a problem. Now, for the continuity piece is, let's say, Larry finds a better job. He leaves. I give my 2 weeks. You as the IT director, manager, business owner, no longer have to panic because the co-managed IT service knows about your ICE environment, right? We either did an assessment of the environment, right? And then we did an optimization of the environment, right? And then, we probably have, documentation about all the things that we did, all right? Most of the time we're going to document any type of improvements or get your environment up to speed. And then we're going to be actively monitoring it and making sure that your environment is up to snuff, right? Because of that, you no longer have to worry like, oh man, I got to hurry up and try to find somebody to, make sure they're monitoring my ICE environment, make sure, if we got to make a policy change, I need to find somebody that knows how to make policy changes and stuff like that. You don't need to do that because we are already there. All right. We're already there, working hand in hand with you to make sure your environment is up to snuff and running optimally, right? And that means, ICE, firewall, networks, the whole nine, right? So we actually bridge the gap between, let's say, uh, here's the gap, right? I'll just use two here, right? To get from step one to step two, which is when Larry leaves, to the new hire, if you decide you want to go with a new hire and not just use us exclusively since we already in your environment, we come in and we bridge the gap until you get the new hire, right? And then once you get the new hire, we fall back into basically co-managed services. That new hire gets brought up to speed with some of the documentation, looks at some of the stuff we did, and then they're managing that ICE environment all over again. And then you just use us for the security blanket and the monitoring and stuff like that. And this could be done in a lot of services. What we do is ICE, firewall, network services, stuff like that. Again, this is not just if somebody leaves as well. It's what if someone goes on vacation? Again, if Larry's the black box guy, the only guy that does ICE, and he goes on vacation, you pretty much can't do anything until he comes back. Now, depending on how long that vacation is, you're kind of stuck, right? And if you got to make a change, or if your ICE environment blows up, or you need to make or you need to do upgrades or something like that, well, you can't do it until Larry gets back. And if it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you're stuck. This is why you need co-managed services. So if you're looking to potentially move in this direction, I'm going to leave some links in the description, right? We could start talking about how we can come in and be a co-managed service for, we really kind of stick in the ICE, Cisco ICE, if you already have it, firewall services. If you want co-managed firewall service, have someone, just be able to be that security blanket for the firewall. If the firewall team, firewall guy, girl ends up leaving, or you need to do optimizations, you want to do an assessment, you want to look at this, you want to have that, hey, my firewall guy is sick, our girl is sick, and we need to make this change. We need you to go and make this change for us. And you're going to have expert level experience. Look, I'm a double CCIE, so I know what I'm talking about. And if you need that expert level of knowledge, this is the type of people you're going to deal with. You're going to deal with people like me, right? But if you want to do that type of stuff and move into a co-managed just as a security blanket, which is going to be cheaper than getting a full-time employee or FTE, it's going to be cheaper to go co-managed than to get a full-time FTE, because you're limiting the scope of what we're actually going to do, but you're getting the expert level that you can't bring on staff, because look, bringing on somebody like me might cost you about $300,000 a year, full-time. Doing co-manage can chop that in half or even more, right? Depending on what the co-managed service looks like. So if you're interested in co-managed services, it's going to be linked in the description. We can talk about how we can bring this to you and build you a stronger network, stronger ICE environment, stronger firewall. It doesn't matter. Let's talk and then go from there. So hopefully this video was informative. Thank you and have a nice day.